Good afternoon. It is Women Educating Women Day today, and what we're going to be doing is a little bit different this time. We're going to be talking about what is it like to work in an industry that is predominantly male-dominated. The financial services industry, which a lot of us kind of broadly fit into that group, is largely male-dominated, and so you're going to hear the perspective of the four of us, and let's see how it goes. So we're going to start with Ava Carnival, who is an investment advisor. And what have you found, Ava?
So thank you. I will just share some of my personal experiences as a female in the financial advisory wealth management space. And then I'll talk a little bit about some trends that I'm seeing and I'm really excited about, actually. So obviously, financial planning, investment brokering, all of those fancy terms, it's male dominated. You see it in headlines, you see it in movies. Typically the players are male. Even in the household, you see men wanting to be more involved with the finances, and they are the ones that find the financial advisor. It's just typical. It's what we've seen. I grew up with a father personally who challenged that notion. And he would always remind me, you deserve a seat at that table. It doesn't matter what people say or how they make you feel or how they act. You deserve a seat at that table, because he knew that I wanted to do what I do. I kind of grew up ignoring that gender bias or that gender gap, if there was one. And I just proceeded as usual, as my normal self. And then one time at work, I was actually told I couldn't go to a conference because I was a female. And I wish I were joking, but that's a true story. And I ended up leaving that firm not too shortly thereafter, finding a new position where I'm welcomed. And so it does happen, unfortunately, even when you try to ignore it and just, keep cruising. But some statistics, in 2016, the presence of female financial advisors across all spaces, so brokers, retirement plan advisors, and independent wealth managers, was at about 14%. In 2020, depending on what sites you source, that number has grown to about 22%. So slowly but surely, we're getting there. We're joining the industry, we're coming together. And I think it's in large part due to national organizations stepping up and having programs and bringing awareness to the great women in the industry. So for example, National Association of Plan Advisors has a Top Women Advisor award every year, where they nominate and elect about 25 to 50 female advisors that they want to highlight. I was fortunate enough to be part of that group in 2019, and they put on great programs and great speakers and everything for the industry. Also, Women in Pension Network is just a group of women that are in the advisory space that get together and talk about the industry, just us girls. So things like that have really, I think, boosted awareness and gotten younger women involved in wanting to join this industry. But currently today, about a third of the US total assets are held by women. But coming up in the next 10 years, it's projected that number will triple due to baby boomers, unfortunately, passing along their inheritance and women outliving men. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if those women want to work with female advisors. Just the other day, we had a client call in specifically asking for a female advisor. So not only is my industry seeing it, and am I seeing it with more women at the table during conversations, the consumer is quite literally demanding it. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. At the end of the day, if the advisor has a good moral compass and ethical standards and they're giving a sound strategy, that's all that matters. But it's just important to have the client and the advisor both feel comfortable who they're working with. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, that's exciting to hear the statistics that you shared with that kind of a increase. It's important from a consumer perspective, and I'm glad that you brought that up, that people have options. I mean, I shouldn't have to work with somebody that I don't want to work with because I want something different. And I think every consumer has that thought. And so if we only have one cookie cutter person that's sitting there, we could go elsewhere.
Yeah, they should have access to those people that they feel comfortable working with. So
that's right.
I hope more women get involved in the industry and take it by storm.
Fantastic. All right. Well, Sujin Kim, attorney at law, estate planning. What has your experience been?
So we've talked about this a lot. I think I speak about it with a lot of women in different groups too. But at the end of the day, the funny thing is all or most industries are male dominated. I mean, it's not just law, it's not just the world of finance or investment or real estate. There are a lot of men, especially at the top executive levels or, the higher supervisory roles. So, I mean, all industries are, or if most are, then, where do you fit in or how do I fit in? And I think that's the most important thing. Like for me to teach my daughter, this is the world you're growing up in. You just have to know where your place is and how comfortable you are where you are. So I remember when I was first volunteering at my first internship, put on a suit and I wore heels for the first time. I don't know why. I just felt like I had to do that to show that I was serious about it or that I respected this profession and the attorneys that were, taking me under their wing. And I'm not sure why I did that because I could not walk in the heels. I was so uncomfortable in my suit because I've never worn a suit, but I just, I thought that's what I was supposed to do. So I did it. And then I learned like, it's not about the suit you wear. It really isn't. It's really about your knowledge of the law, right? So as an attorney now, when I see interns and, you'll see them a lot at the court because they're the ones that get sent off. I don't know. I don't think it's really that necessary anymore, but I don't know that a lot of women take the time to tell a younger woman like, hey, you don't need to do that. If you want to, that's fine, but you don't have to feel obligated to. It's really whatever you're most comfortable in because you're going to be smart, whether you're wearing a suit, pantsuit, or a dress. It really doesn't matter. It's really about what makes you feel confident. If I could teach my daughter one thing, it would be just to explore those opportunities because you're not going to know a certain profession until you go and actually experience it. So if you think you like law, then there are so many areas of law. Like you got to go figure out which of, the 17 tested subjects you are more inclined to. And if you're thinking about finance, if you're thinking about wedding photography, whatever it is, you have to get that experience. And I think once our young women have that experience, that's where they'll get the confidence and they'll be able to say, okay, this is, what I like, and this is how I want to present myself. And that's, I think, at the end of the day, really important for young women to rise to those leadership roles, to feel comfortable speaking in front of men and women. And going back to Ava's point, this is truly how, groups like this form. Like I had my CPA personally, he was a male and I really, really liked my CPA. So when a client asked for a referral, of course, I recommended him. But then to come to find out the two just did not hit it off. They're not working together. And then I thought about it. In retrospect, those two personalities were never going to work because he is an elderly Caucasian male and she is a very young, strong business owner. And the two just did not hit it off. And I should have seen that. So I think it is important if you're going into, leadership, owning your own business, whatever you may do later in life, for you to have that breadth and for you to know the different, the different personalities, different demographics, no female advisors and male, so that you can build rapport and be confident when you're referring them to your clients as well.
Agreed. Well, I think that as a senior in this group, there is always a culture that's associated with a business, and the culture does come into play. I mean, if you're in an environment, and who was it? Martha Stewart back in the 60s would show up in hot pants as a financial planner. Okay, that was an interesting approach to things. But if you are in a conservative place, for example, sometimes, yes, your clothing matters. I mean, it's not, let me dress by a particular formula, but it does matter to pay attention to culture. And so that's just my opinion, which I'm not giving my opinion yet, except I just did. So, Tara Van Zandt, what has your experience been?
I think I kind of have a similar perspective as Ava and Sujin. The accounting industry is actually very female dominated. there's more than 60% are women, but only 27% of them are actual leaders in the industry. It actually makes me positive about the outlook of the future, because there are so many women in the industry that at a certain point, we're going to have more female leaders in the industry as well. And I've seen it. And I think even in the last 20 years, it's gone from, I think, 7% partners to 27%. So, I mean, it's getting there. And I think people's perspectives are changing, clients are changing. So things are continuing to be more inclusive of women. And I think it's so important to have that, because I do think that women add an additional perspective. And they also, a lot of times, and Ava kind of touched on this, I'm seeing more and more clients are asking for women or wanting, and I mean, I think that's kind of the premise of the group we have here too, is that we recognize that there's a place that there's clients that want to have more of a softer touch or more empathy, or which generally, women will give that to people more so than men, as far as just an empathetic ear or, just a softer approach. And I think that that's what's helped me over my career is I definitely speak up. I've learned to do that over time is to always make my voice heard. And if I'm in a room of men, I know I can be a little more assertive or run over them in a way. But then I also try to just be true to who I am. And I think that was kind of the message I think Sujin and Ava, I think, were both kind of saying, was that you just have to be true to who you are and do what you want to do. And really just, who cares about everybody else, right? I mean, just do what you want to do. And really that's the gist of it. And I think, and I've had experiences over time, where Ava talked about this, where I stayed, in tunnel vision, and I didn't really think there was any kind of sexism or anything like that of any kind. And then I would occasionally experience something, then I went, maybe that was something. But most of the time I just, you just move on from that person. If I have a client that I think might not want to work with a woman, okay, well, he doesn't want to work with a woman, so he finds somewhere else to go, right? Right. So, I mean, so that's ultimately it. You find the people you want to work with and the people that, and then support women too. That's what I try to do, is support other women wherever I can. So. Well,
and it definitely takes all of us, in my perspective, now that I'm giving one, is as a realtor, but also broker owner. So not just a realtor, but that I own the brokerage. The buck stops with me. There's a real push right now for fair housing, and most housing decisions are made by women. And yet the perspective, and there's a lot of realtors who are women, but like some of you have said, the ones in leadership, not as many. Now, I will say the National Association of Realtors, as well as California Association of Realtors, has strong representation of women, but there's still more men, even though there is that representation. And I will say that the perspective of old school, that it used to be, you talked about the suit, Sujin, you dressed a certain way. It was dress for success. And there was books about dressing for success, which basically put us all in suits and, red shirts and all of that. But now that being more comfortable in our own skin, as all of you have said, is really at the end of the day where our confidence comes from. And confidence sells more than anything else. When we're confident in what we're bringing, then people see that and understand that, instead of sort of getting, she doesn't seem like she's very confident. I don't know that I can feel confident. If she's not comfortable with herself, how am I supposed to be comfortable with her? And so the other part of it is that the traits that are more traditionally considered female traits are not as highly valued in many settings as the male dominated traits. I mean, the ones that say, I'm the top dog. I'm, just push through. If I have to bowl you over, I will bowl you over to get what I want to do. That is viewed as a strong trait, unless sometimes when a woman shows up in that way, then we get different names. Not such a strong trait when we show up in that way. So I think as our world is changing, that the traits that we bring to the marketplace are more valued, and and people understand that if you've got a board, for example, board members that have women and men on them, they're more effective because they've got these different perspectives, and those different perspectives are valued. The one thing that I would say to young women, old women for that matter, is one of the things that we sometimes get walked over is because we're waiting for our chance to say what we have to say. Men do not wait for their chance to say what they have to say. They interject themselves. They just say, whatever it is. And I think that I know that I have found that I am assertive, and I don't just wait for somebody to look over and say, Cheryl, can I help you? I mean, I'm just going to dive into the conversation if I have something of value to bring. And so we need to stop sitting by the sidelines and waiting for someone to give us our turn and to take our turn. And so that's what we have to talk about today. As usual, we don't know what we'll be talking about next time, but we will be talking about something next month as well, and sharing our different perspectives. And if any of us can help with something that you're curious about, you like what you've been hearing, and you have a need that one of us can fill, we certainly would be happy to help you. So thanks for listening in, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.